Today's guest is Debbie Millman, an author, educator, designer, and the host of the Webby Award-winning podcast Design Matters, one of the longest-running podcasts in the world. She's been recognized as one of the most influential designers working today and has spent her career exploring creativity, meaning, and how we shape our lives. Today, we're talking about what it really means to design your life and where to begin when you're ready for change.
Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. We're Marnie and Stephanie, and each week we share grounded, practical tools to help you feel strong, steady, and energized in midlife and beyond.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for coming on our show today. We recently heard you on the Mel Robbins podcast and immediately knew that we wanted you to come on our show. You're a designer, an author, an educator, longtime host of Design Matters. And today we're talking about how to explore alignment within yourself and what it really means to design a life that feels good to you on the inside. It's not just impressive on paper. And we're going to really dive into this topic. So Debbie, welcome.
Thank you, Marnie. It's really nice to be here with you and Stephanie.
And before we get started, we would love to know from you, what is your go-to way to reconnect with your body on a busy day?
To take a walk. That's my way of clearing the air, so to speak, literally, figuratively. I think I get most of my ideas when I'm walking. If I'm with my dog, that's even better. I'm a native New Yorker, so I've been walking on concrete my whole life, but I've also been able to walk from place to place pretty easily without having to use too many other modes of transportation. So walking for me is my go-to.
I think Marnie and I both feel the same. We're just a little envious of you right now because based on living in Minnesota in early February when we're recording this, it's not always so pleasant to just get outside when we need to. So
yeah. I remember being in Minneapolis one winter visiting, and I went outside. It was like negative 30 degrees. My eyelashes froze.
Yes. Yeah. And it's actually like a little heat wave here compared to what we had a couple weeks ago. So, 25 is feeling like a blessing right now.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. But it's also really, really cold in New York right now. Unusually cold. Like single digits.
Well, you're lucky you're in LA.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Although I keep reminding myself and others, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad gear. So just bundle up. And once you're outside, it is very invigorating being outside and walking. So anyway, Well, let's dive in. As Marnie mentioned already, you're known as a designer and a longtime host of your podcast, Design Matters, but your work has clearly expanded into life design and meaning making. So how did that evolution happen? Maybe you can just share a little bit about what your own life taught you and how you ended up on this path.
Well, it was a quite circuitous path and one that was very serendipitous in that I wasn't looking for a way to think about my life in the way that I do now. I was taking a class with Milton Glaser, a summer intensive at the School of Visual Arts, long before I actually started teaching there. And I was taking it because he's a design legend, or was a design legend, rest in power, Milton. And in that class, he asked us to envision, or one of the exercises was to envision our future 5 years in the future, exactly how we wanted to live it. And not to think about process, just to think about that day being an actual day in the future where we were doing exactly what we wanted to be doing and living exactly the way we wanted to be living. And so I put my heart and soul into doing it, not only because I was really hoping for an outcome that was accurate to what I was writing about, but also because I really wanted to please Milton. I'm an overachiever at heart and wanted to be the girl that was giving him the apple in class. And so I put my heart and soul into it. And he asked us to take this exercise really seriously because he was relaying how much it had impacted decades of students he'd had before, and even went as far as to say that it was one of, if not the most important thing he did. And this is a man who designed the I Heart New York logo. So he was pretty accomplished. And as I said, a real legend. So for him to say that teaching a class was the most important thing, one of the reasons being this exercise, I took it really seriously. And that's ultimately how that folded into the kind of work that I'm doing in my life. It was a remarkable exercise. It took a little bit longer than 5 years, but almost everything on the list came true within 10. And when he stopped teaching, then I was starting, again, coincidentally, nothing to do with my taking the class with Milton other than my wishful hopes for the future. I was teaching at the School of Visual Arts, and I asked him if I could start teaching the class, that exercise in my class. And he said yes.
So what about this exercise was so moving and powerful? And what did it teach you that design school never could?
In some ways, it's hard for me to answer that question because I didn't go to design school.
Yeah.
But what I would imagine from now teaching undergrad in a design school, but still not teaching design per se, I think it gave me a moment to think about the future without barriers and without obstacles. And because we also shared these exercises in class and shared our essays, I think that the declaration was really important to state it as if it was happening, because that's how we were instructed to write it. I wake up whatever day in the future, 5 years from now, and I open my eyes and this is all happening. It felt very tangible in that moment to envision ourselves in that way, and for everybody else to envision ourselves in that way. And so somehow I think that declaring it is a big part of almost accepting that this is what you want and putting yourself in a position to take the first step to make it happen.
Well, and I remember specifically when you talked about this, when I heard you on Mel Robbins, you said, not only are you speaking the words out loud to others, but you're also hearing what other people are saying in their declarations, and that's triggering ideas in your own mind.
Yeah.
So that really stuck with me, because I will often like write down things like manifestations or whatever, things that I want. But the idea of speaking them out loud to somebody else and then hearing their ideas, I love that component of it.
Yeah, for me, it was revelatory to hear people giving themselves permission to do these things as if they were happening. And one of the things that I do give my students the opportunity to do is, after they hear other people's essays, to potentially revise theirs if they didn't think they were thinking big enough. And they do. They often do.
Because I can imagine where someone would start small. Like maybe they're not thinking big enough because they're afraid or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a certain tentativeness that a lot of people come to this exercise with because they don't envision how it's possible. And so that's one of the things that I really recommend that they just sweep off the table. It's not an exercise of process, it's an exercise of envisioning.
Which is so powerful. And it's interesting because, Marnie, you and I, we do these health transformation audits, and we'll bring a guest on and we'll ask them to envision their day, like their ideal day, in say 6 weeks or 6 months. But this is even taking it one step further, but it's very similar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it does give you permission to dream and hope. And I have always had a lot of hope in my life. I've always wanted something that was special. And so I was, I think, the perfect guinea pig for something like this, because I wanted so badly for so much of it for so long. You know, when I did the exercise, I was actually already in my 40s. So it wasn't just a starting out vision. It was really a mid-career hope and dream and fantasy.
This episode is brought to you by Good Health Saunas, your key to relaxation, rejuvenation, and better health. If you want to feel better in your body every single day, infrared sauna therapy is a powerful tool. It supports detoxification, immune health, muscle recovery, better sleep, and even healthier looking skin. And honestly, it just feels incredible. I absolutely love my Good Health Sauna and use it regularly. My husband does as well. It's become a part of our weekly routine, especially after our workouts or long days when we just need to rest and unwind. Good Health Saunas offers a commercial-grade infrared saunas with a lifetime warranty and exceptional customer service. Their team walks you through everything from selection to installation, making the process simple and seamless. You can visit their stores at the Mall of America in Minnesota or in Appleton and Waukesha, Wisconsin. Head to goodhealthsaunas.com and mention the Art of Living Well podcast for your exclusive discount. So diving in, I'm thinking about our listeners, and many of them are high functioning and outwardly really successful, yet internally they are feeling misaligned. And how do you help someone distinguish between a life that's, impressive and one that's actually just sustaining? And like, where's the place that you would suggest someone begins with this work?
I suggest that they begin in a place of courage, because they have to step into an unknown. They have to step into, I don't know how this is going to happen, but this is what I want with my whole heart. And so I'm not going to think about what I need to get it. I'm just going to assume that I can have it. And that does change people's mindsets, because so many people, self-included here, feel unworthy or less than, or in some way challenged by their own selves. And that, I think, is really the biggest obstacle. I often ask my students to consider, what is the biggest obstacle to making this happen? And they have all kinds of reasons: fear, money, family, any number of things. And when I ask them to really analyze all of those things, well, fear, who's controlling that? You might feel that it is an involuntary reflex, as it is to anything uncertain or unknown or unpredictable, but you can still make a choice to live with that fear as you're moving through the exercise. And it's extraordinary to see how people respond when they begin to understand that their biggest obstacle to achieving this is actually themselves and not an external force that is somehow controlling them.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. The mindset that you mentioned is either your asset or your biggest challenge. So how do you help people move through that? Because I do agree that the fear, and maybe it's a little bit of lack of confidence too, that are, entangled in the fear.
Yeah, but the confidence doesn't change anything, because if there's a lack of confidence, waiting for the confidence is never going to show up. You don't walk into a supermarket and pick confidence next to the orange juice. It's something that is manifested through courage. You step into the courage to do something that you haven't done before. And then through the repetition of that activity or that endeavor, you are then able to build confidence. So I always tell my students that confidence is the successful repetition of any endeavor. The first time you do anything, it's unlikely you're going to just knock it out of the park and do it really, really well. Actually, you'll probably do it poorly because you've never done it before and you don't have the muscle memory and you don't have the skills. So the more you try to do something, the likelihood is the better you will get, because you will begin to learn. So you can't wait for the confidence to show up. You have to step into the courage to build the confidence that comes after you actually attempt something. And that, I think, really changes the way people approach this in my classes.
Well, that's a really good distinction. So how do you encourage or suggest that someone step into that courage?
There's only one way to do it. You take the step. That's it. I give people these tools through my classes, which are in a college. So it's not like a self-help class. It's an actual class in a college that people take, or they can use the cards that are downloadable on Mel's website and do it on their own. This isn't something that I do workshops with. If you want to do this, you have to commit to doing it. I'm not going to hold your hand through it. I'm just going to encourage you to do it because it's something that's going to help you.
So do you have students that will go through this process and then come back to you? Like, I don't know how many years you've been doing
all the time, Marnie, all the time.
That must be so amazing.
It is amazing.
And I'm assuming some of these manifestations are, what did you call it? Declaration. You said a declaration, I think.
They declare it, yeah.
Yeah, some of these declarations could potentially feel, I don't want to say far-fetched, but like...
That's a good word for it. Far-fetched is good. Mine were far-fetched. I had no idea.
Do you think that what's happening then is you have these declarations in your mind, and so your actions that you're taking are making you move forward towards those declarations? Like, how does this work?
That I couldn't tell you because I don't have any answer. I'm not going to make anything up. I don't know how it works. I think that there's a sense, my sense of it is that you get a sense of what is possible. It's something that was deep in your unconscious that you've brought up a little bit, maybe to the subconscious, and somehow the declaration of that puts it out into the universe, and you are able to begin to consider other possibilities for yourself. And do you think it requires a hope about what you're capable of? And maybe that hope allows you to consider possibilities that you might not have in a more serious way.
It's so empowering.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that I could tell you, this is exactly how it happens. You do this, and then you bury it, and then you wait, and then it happens. It grows.
Yeah.
I have no idea. All I know is that it's worked for me in a pretty profound way, and it's worked for hundreds of students because I teach 2 undergraduate classes a year and 1 graduate class a year. And so that's 3 classes of anywhere between 15 and 25 students. And I've been doing it for now 15 years. And so there's a lot of, this is, I think, statistically significant data.
Absolutely. And it seems like what you're doing, honestly, is allowing people to sit and kind of figure out, because some people don't have like a calling. Like if you ask just anyone randomly on the street to do this without really being in the right mindset, they're like, I don't know. I mean, my job's fine. I have a family. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I want to retire at a certain age or whatever. So there's people out there that just don't have this calling necessarily, but maybe they're feeling a little restless and not fulfilled. But through this exercise, you're giving them permission to dream big. And I think that maybe is the piece, like that, and the environment, being with around other students who are declaring, getting these ideas, and the energy in your classroom, I'm sure is just like off the charts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for someone who's not sitting in your classroom, which I was like, gosh, I would love to be in your class, how can they create an environment that allows them to maybe get unstuck or get out of that thinking brain where it's just like doing the daily chores and just thinking through their responsibilities and figure out what is their inner calling? What do they want to do? What do they see someone else doing that kind of strikes a little fire in them or a ping of jealousy?
Well, I think that for anybody that is interested in doing this, that means there's already a curiosity. There's already a spark of, this could be interesting, or what if? And if that moves them, as I said, I've made a whole series of material free for people to use, or if they want to be more formal about it, I did create that deck of cards. I very intentionally didn't create a book after I first talked about this exercise on Tim Ferriss's podcast in 2017, and all of a sudden people were clamoring for a methodology to follow, and I didn't want to make a book. I was offered opportunities, but I just felt like it was too prescriptive. I wanted it to be something that was much more abstract and people could come to this whichever way they wanted to. And so that's why the cards have the two sides. One are very specific, tangible questions. Mm-hmm. And then the other side are much more abstract, sort of envisioning and mood enhancing as opposed to prescriptive. So I would say if anybody wants to do it, just heed the want and find a space to be able to carve out for yourself for a couple of hours and really spend time fantasizing about what your life could be if you could do anything you wanted and it could happen.
I love that. And I definitely want to go through this exercise like more formally. I've done it like kind of informally, but I think it would be so valuable.
I just want to add one thing. I did this in 2005. By 2010, 50 or 60% of it had come true. 10 years later, like 80%. And then there were even things that came true that I didn't want to do anymore. So I didn't want to do them, which was an interesting exercise to look at.
So like you're saying you wrote them down back then because you thought you wanted to do them then, mm-hmm. but then in the future you were like, I don't really want that anymore, but it still happened.
Well, it was something that I did think that I wanted. And then when it did, I didn't really enjoy it. And so I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
However, what I do see a lot of people go through is some consternation at even doing it. And by 2017, so that was 12 years after I did this, and so much had happened and was extraordinary, I thought, maybe it's time to write another one and see how far I can stretch myself. And there was a lot of procrastination there. I ended up doing it, believe it or not, New Year's Eve in 2017, because that's how long it took me to like really sit down and give myself the space to do this and think and dream without fear or worry or any kind of internal obstacle that I was putting in my way. So it's not always an easy thing to do. And I recognize that, but I think it's important to do it anyway.
Well, and it's interesting because as I think about this, you have to be really honest with yourself when you're doing something like this on what you want, right? Not what you think you should want, not what your mom wants for you or your husband or your brother or whoever wants for you, but it's really what you want. And I think that in itself is hard for a lot of people. And I know that fear can be really limiting for other people. How do you know when a fear is like protecting you versus limiting you?
I think it depends on the fear. I couldn't answer that with sort of empirical certainty. We need fear to protect us from things that could harm us. A lot of that might have to do with historical trauma that we've had in our lives that make us much more sensitive to certain triggers. So I think it's a very personal journey. For me, anything that makes me feel unsafe or insecure triggers a sort of trauma response. And I know that, but I'm also well into middle age. So somebody younger might not know that. And so I think you have to do whatever feels right. And if something feels scary, take a break. I'm not one for pushing people through their vulnerabilities without real care. And even pushes is something I wouldn't do. I'm just acknowledging that might be there and might not be ready, need to take a break, need to think about something else for a while. That's everybody's own personal journey that they have to take on their own terms.
Absolutely. And sometimes fear can be like the fear of not being good enough to do something or insecurities. And I think in those instances, at least for myself, when I have those fears, pushing through them is usually the way that I can kind of get to a next phase versus, I think it depends. Like you said, it's so relevant.
Yeah. I remember talking to one of my young students and he was really scared of going after what he wanted. And I said, well, what would be the worst that would happen if you did try? And he said, I would die of heartbreak if I didn't succeed. And, we talked through that and how that felt to him. And that was very real. Like if his dream didn't come true, then his life would not have meaning anymore. And ultimately, he had to figure out that he could actually try for something. And if he didn't succeed, that he would likely metabolize that grief and work on either something else or trying again. I think people do feel that whatever result might happen, they will be paralyzed in that feeling forever. But humans metabolize we metabolize our feelings. We metabolize everything. We are metabolizing machines. Mm-hmm. And so the time heals all wounds, maybe not fully, but certainly lessens the wound. And that's something that people can only experience through time.
So how can someone kind of get out of their mind and get a little bit more in tune in their body and listening to your body, energetically, or just through, how you feel physically? How can that shape how you design your life or allow you through this process, especially when we're talking about fear and anxiety and things like that? Because I do think people spend so much time up here.
Yeah, but that's part of what I'm unable to answer, because this isn't a process thing. And I spent almost my entire adult life, less 3 years ago, from here up and ignoring everything from the neck down for lots and lots and lots and lots of reasons. That didn't stop me from wanting things, and it didn't stop me from writing this exercise. What ultimately got me more in touch with my body was having to have surgery and needing to have a physical therapist after the surgery help me get better. And through that physical therapist, that's what really changed my own relationship with my body. And ironically, that was not something ever on either of my 10-year plans, 5 or 10-year plan. Like, let's get more in shape. That was not there because I didn't even know that was possible. So I don't really have answers to how to overcome the obstacles that people put in their way to do things. I have a lot of empathy and a lot of camaraderie in those instances because of my own obstacles. But what I will suggest then is, if you do feel stuck, there are people that can help you, and real, like, legit people, not people that make cards about how to fantasize about a better life, but like therapists, physical therapists, psychologists. And I have been the benefit of both of those to great helps. And that's not even the right word, to great leaps and remarkable changes, both physically and mentally.
Spring is the perfect time for a reset, and our next Vitality Reboot starts May 3rd. If your body's been feeling sluggish, inflamed, or just off track, this is a simple and supportive way to boost your energy, reduce cravings, and get your digestion back on track without extremes. We focus on real food, liver support, balanced blood sugar, and nervous system regulation so that you can feel clear, steady, and energized again. It's perfect after a vacation or before a trip to help your body stay balanced while you're away. Can't join live? Our Do It Anytime version is available year-round. So head on over to the show notes and join us today. Let's step into spring feeling strong and energized.
So maybe we should think about this differently then. And a lot of our listeners haven't heard about your class and the process and kind of what we're referring to on the Mel Robbins podcast. Can you share with us, like, what is the prompt, the actual prompt you're giving your students to start this, or the assignment? Can we start with what that would be?
So it's very, very simple. You're living 10 years into the future on this day. So today is February 5th, 2026. On February 5th, 2036, I open my eyes and...
Wow.
And you have one day in which to articulate what you're hoping to do, how you're living. You open your eyes and where are you? Who are you with? Are you married? Do you have a partner? Do you have children? Do you have pets? What's your bedroom like? Where is your house? What kind of work are you doing? How do you get to work? What environment are you living in? What do you enjoy doing? And for people like me that have a lot of different interests, so podcasting and writing and illustrating and teaching and curating and so forth, I have a lot of meetings. Doing a lot of different things, and just to be as detailed as possible of what that day can look like. How are you taking care of your physical self? How are you taking care of your mental health? And very, very quotidian things. What kind of clothes are you wearing? What are your sheets like on your bed? Describe your house. Describe how you take up space. What kind of love do you need? What kind of relationships do you have? And so on and so forth. So from the very quotidian to the really gigantic universal.
I just love this exercise. And like Marty said, I've done it in the past differently though. And this captures something that some of those exercises I've done for courses and whatever did not. And I like how you even just, how do you wake up? What are your sheets like? Because those little things, although they may seem a little bit frivolous, it impacts your mood, your day. You're like, we all have routines, right? And so little things like that are really important and can set us up for the day.
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions that I love is how do you pick up the pieces?
Yeah.
Because things aren't going to always go your way.
Right.
How do you manage through the disappointments?
Mm-hmm.
So, question about this assignment. Are people talking about what they did within those 10 years, or you're really focused on the one day 10 years from now, the one day? So I love that. So, getting from A to B is not part of this.
No. The more you think about getting from A to B, the more you're going to restrict what you can do because that's not realistic.
Right.
See, the realism word has to come out of the equation.
So I love that you're doing this with college students because they're young. Like I'm not that I'm too old to do this because you're never too old, but I'm 52 and thinking about myself as a 62-year-old. I may not be working as much by 62. I don't know, but
You will. I'm 64. You will.
I mean, I really like working, so I can't imagine not. But anyway, I'm just saying like I have 3 college, post-college age kids, and I think for them doing these exercises could be so valuable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What an amazing gift you're giving your students.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like I wish I could have taken a course like that in college.
Thank you. I love teaching this exercise because there's always a moment in the exercise where a light bulb goes off and they begin to see a different type of future than they might have been considering. Part of the reason I love doing this so much is because when I graduated college, all I could think about was what I didn't have. I didn't have connections. I didn't have money. I wasn't as attractive or thin enough or whatever enough to do what I thought I wanted to do. And so I put a lot of restrictions on what I went after, mostly because I didn't think I'd ever get them. And I lived like that for a really long time. And so it's revelatory for me to see young people reframe what they think they're capable of and entitled to. And it's that sense of, I am worthy enough to get this that really just opens my heart.
Well, because self-worth is just so important and enough people don't have it. Adults, kids. So if nothing else that they take away from this exercise is that anything is possible. I am worthy of all the things I want in 10 years. That is just like foundational. That's like this course just seems like
it's just one exercise. It's just one exercise in a whole class of self-discovery, but it's really to help them create the careers that they want. And all the other personal stuff is just the frosting on the cake, so to speak.
Right. So, a lot of our listeners out there, like we kind of said early on, are middle-aged. A lot of them are taking care of kids and parents and families, and even getting them to like commit to one thing for their sort of overall health and well-being can be a lot. The whole selfish self-care, that whole discussion is still very real in prioritizing themselves. So how do you encourage a listener out there to start to think about their life differently or design a life that's honest and true to them without feeling selfish?
I think the thing that I would say is, what do you want more? To live in this moment of frustration or defeat or demoralization, or do you want to allow yourself to have a bit more? I think that it's very hard for me to envision how to tell somebody just not to do something. I think that you can still try to do all these things with those feelings and maybe see as you're doing this that those feelings don't have to be the most prominent. You can still have a multitude of feelings while you're doing things. This isn't the only feeling. And so, yes, you might feel like you're being selfish, but if you're aware that you don't want to be selfish while you're doing this, then maybe that will help balance it out.
That's good advice.
And what about the people that say, I'm guessing you may even have students that say something like, well, this is really only for people with money or people with privilege. It's not for people that don't have resources behind them.
I don't know why you would need resources to dream.
Right.
When I graduated college, I had to make decisions every month about what I was going to pay. My rent, my student loan, food. That didn't stop me at the time from wanting things, for hoping for things, for longing for things. I just didn't have any sense of being worthy to be able to get them or even go for them. That was the issue. I wasn't even attempting anything bigger because I just assumed I wouldn't get it. That's what I'm really trying to help people in that moment see beyond, because I know what that paralysis and that sort of barrier feels like very, very intensely.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It is this paralysis and feeling stuck and not feeling worthy to dream big. But everyone is worthy of dreaming big.
Yeah. And again, because this isn't a process, this isn't my asking people to envision how they're going to do it. This is just a very free, open experience to undertake where you are allowing yourself to dream.
So if someone was to do this, like one of our listeners wanted to take the step and write their declaration, obviously they're not in a class. Would you recommend that they read it out loud to somebody else just to share it? Because saying the words out loud are different than just having them written or typed or whatever, right?
Yep. And I know a lot of people now that are doing it together as couples. If they're a couple, they're doing it together and then sharing that. And it helps, I think, really explore what a couple might want in the future as a team, as a duo.
I love that.
I haven't done that, but I love the idea of it.
Well, it's so powerful, especially when couples are in that middle age where they've already had kids and they have some career, but maybe it's not even what they really want to be doing. Or they're, like Marnie, who's an empty nester now, and you're in that phase of what's next. Like really powerful and a way to connect with your partner, because often we become disconnected from them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and just tactically speaking, I just have one more tactical question about the assignment.
Sorry that I'm not as good with the tactics.
No, but I like tactics here. So I'm just wondering, how long do you give students to write this declaration? Is it like
a week?
A week. Okay.
Yeah, from one class to the next. They get the assignment on a Monday. My classes are on Monday evenings. They get the assignment on that Monday. And then the following Monday, they come back and share.
And I'm guessing there's a big difference in length. Some of them maybe are 2 pages and some of them are 20 pages. And that's okay, right?
It's absolutely okay. And I also don't force the students to share anything that they might feel is too intimate. Mm-hmm. And so they'll sometimes say, I don't want to share that part. And that's fine, because they could share it with other people, or just the fact that they're trying it all, I think makes all the difference. I mean, I was so overachiever, I made a list. I was like, I made a list of the things I'm doing in 2010.
Yeah.
And so it's actually, that is reprinted in the booklet that comes with the actual cards that I made. So people can see, and they can just see from my bio that it is, so many of the things have happened.
Yeah.
And I still have the original journal I wrote it in. So it's pretty remarkable.
That's very cool. And the cards sound really interesting. I remember listening about that one on Mel's podcast. For those who want to check it out, we can link those up in the show notes. So based on all the years of teaching this course and conversations with people, I mean, maybe you can even share an example, and I'm sure you have tons, but what truly can change a person's life? So they do this exercise, and then the students that have come back to you, I'd love for you to share just an example or what you think truly changed their life after doing this exercise from like a mindset standpoint, or just, I don't know, maybe it's their courage or.
Well, I think that what happens is when you do step into that courage or faith, however you want to think about it, the unknown, and attempt something, that activity, that action does give you a sense of strength, because it hasn't killed you, because you haven't died of heartbreak. And so, as I mentioned earlier, for me, I think that confidence is the successful repetition of any endeavor. So just the fact that you've taken that step gives you the ability, once you know you can do it, to do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And that, I believe, puts you on a path to eventual mastery if you keep doing it and you are committed to it. That might take a long time, but anything worthwhile takes a long time. Very few things I know of are just immediate and instantaneous and forever. So I think that...
Yeah. What do they say? 10,000 hours? You need 10,000 hours to become a master at something? Yeah. This is also fascinating. So just thinking about our listeners, if you could leave them with one question to sit with this week, maybe something simple, maybe something revealing, what would it be?
Well, as I am now in what I hope is the start of the last third of my life, hopefully get to 100, right?
Yep.
What I would say to anybody is, if not now, when? Anybody that's listening to this, especially if you're middle-aged, you're never going to be younger or more beautiful than you are right now. That's just the way life is. And so why not take advantage of the momentum of that and take that first courageous step into the unknown? And that might just be sitting down with yourself and saying, what is possible?
I love that.
And it's simple, but it's like in your face. Oh, if not now, when? Like, right. What am I sitting here doing?
It's only going to get harder as you get older.
Right. I see that with my parents.
Yes. Oh, wow. There's just so much to think about. I also think this exercise could be cool doing it with your family, especially if you have older kids, the college or the high school age, and just getting them to think and give themselves permission. It seems like quite a gift that you could give your kids as a parent, actually.
I could see so many things you could be doing with this, Debbie. All these little spin-offs are going on.
A whole separate conversation. Help me reboot my life.
Yeah. She's like, I want to be doing less, not more. But yeah, I just don't think enough people are, people are talking about this, yes, but not in this way and not enough. We can't have more conversations like this, in my opinion. So this is great. I'm excited to dive in personally. So can you share with our listeners where they can find you? And we'll link it all up in the show notes. And you mentioned,
Sure.
I know I've printed out the download that you referred to on Mel Robbins' podcast. But if you know that link, if not, we can.
Oh, yeah, I don't. I think you'd have to go to her website, and then on our show notes, I think it's there.
Yeah.
There's a link for anybody to download it for free. And DebbieMillman.com, Debbie Millman on Instagram and all the socials. It's very easy to find me.
Great.
And as we wrap up this conversation, we love to ask our guests, what does the art of living well mean to you?
Feeling content with your life as is.
Beautiful.
It sounds simple, I should say.
Well, but that's all that people really want most at the end of the day, right? Some sort of contentment or peace or joy. And we overcomplicate things.
Yeah, not longing for more, just being happy with what is.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that means looking back and seeing where you are today and where you were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And like, wow, do I always have to be striving for the next thing, or can I just be happy with where I am right now?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
It's been really wonderful talking to you both. Thank you for the great questions. And I really, really hope that this does help people, that they can step into their unknowns and become known.
Well, I know it will. Yeah. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. Have a good day. Bye, Debbie.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Marnie. Bye.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in to the Art of Living Well podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more people discover our show.
And if you're ready to take your health and happiness to the next level, we would love to support you. Whether it's through our transformative group programs, personalized coaching, or functional medicine lab testing, we help uncover the root causes of your health challenges and unlock your vitality.
Visit www.theartoflivingwell.us to learn more and book a free discovery call. Until next time, keep creating your art of living well.